Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2020 show. I'm your host, Don Kay, and we are once again live from the Grand King Race Shops here in 8155 Crawfordsville Road in Indianapolis. And if and when anything opens up, you need to come down here. This is a working museum. You'll really enjoy it. Today's show is presented by Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, SVRA, and McGilvery's Pub and Eatery and Speedway. Several things to mention. Everybody loves to go to a dentist. It's your best place to go. Everybody goes, oh yeah, well, that's not necessarily true, but I can make it so you will do that. The Indy Dental Group, Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a phenomenal practice. You will love it. I can almost guarantee that. We go there and it's spectacular. So if you need dental work, give it a shot. Give them a call, make an appointment. The number is 317-846-6125. And there is going to be some Christmas things coming up shortly from the Grand King shops. And if you want to get some information on it before their website is up and running, just go to grandkingshops@gmail.com and ask what they got, and they'll get in touch with you and show you. They got some great Christmas presents, stuff you might be interested in having for kids and adults for that matter. You have somebody in your family or a friend that's a huge IndyCar fan, well, I'll tell you where you can get them almost anything you can think of that they might like. The Indy500shop.com has it all. I've been there. I'm not kidding. If there's something you're looking for, I'll bet you he's got it. So give Michael Spangle, you can give him a call. His number is 317-985-0214, or go to the the500shop.com. Check out what he's got. You'll be surprised at what he does have. You have trouble with your computer? I do. We have the A+ Affordable Computer Doctor. Steve Freeze is a doctor, and he can help you out. Give him a call. Tell him your problem. If necessary, he makes a house call. Number is 317-328-0766. And if and when the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum opens, you got to go over there and see the Andy Granatelli exhibit. It is really spectacular. And those of you who know Andy and knew of him when he was performing, he was ahead of his time in everything he did. It's a great exhibit. You'll enjoy it, so go over and see it. Behind me, just to my right here, is the 1978 Rookie of the Year car driven by Larry Rice. He also drove it in 1979. It's race ready. It's a Drake Offie, and Mike Devon, the former crew chief, has looked at the car, and it's absolutely spectacular. It's got some great lap times. They got all the information on the car. If you're interested, give the Grand King Shop a call. The number is 317-820-3595. Have you ever wondered why these guys and gals like driving Indy cars? Why don't you find out for yourself? Take a ride in a two-seater. Just go to indyracingexperience.com and find out their dates next year and find one that works for you. In the promo box, put DK1, you get a 50% discount, or you can call the office. Number is 317-243-7171 and ask for Shonda. And take a ride. You'll love it. They've given thousands of them, and people just absolutely love the ride. Is it time to upgrade your home or your car or your commercial property insurance? Do what most of us have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Give him a call, tell him what you need, and I can tell you, you'll probably get better coverage for less money. His number is 317-248-0070. And if you are a Trans Am fan or a vintage fan, you can go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour magazine. Great stories, great pictures, and a lot of the drivers that you knew as a kid, they're out driving vintage cars again. Plus, you get all the information on the Trans Am series. And while you're there, hit the schedule link and see where they're going in 2021. You see they got a full schedule for next year. So check it out. It's svra.com, Speed Tour magazine, and check their schedule. And if you are looking for, or you have a vintage car and need it restored, the Grand King Shops can help you. Call them up, tell them what you got, what you need. Or if you're looking for a car like behind me, they can help you in all facets. Their number is 317-820-3595. Now, my guest today is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of knowing for about 25 years, probably. And when I first met him, he was working at, was then IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's now Lucas Oil Raceway. but he is now the executive director of the International Council of Motorsports Sciences. It's a nonprofit corporation acknowledged as a leading motorsports safety research association in the world. Tom has graduated from Ball State, and he's worked for about every racing series there is and been involved in all kinds of things, primarily doing in the last 10 or so years with safety. So please welcome my guest, Mr. Tom Weisenbach. Tom, how are you?
I'm great, Don. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. Always great to see you. Happy holidays.
And to you as well. And I trust you've been safe and you're masking everywhere you need to go, but I bet most of your meetings now are, as you and I are doing, on Zoom.
Yeah, it's I haven't left the house much, and you know, it's a scary time. Even if we mask up, we don't know what's going to happen. My daughter and my son-in-law both have tested positive in the last 3 weeks, and she's pregnant, so we worry about that. So we're being extra cautious. It was a different type of Thanksgiving. It'll be a completely different type of Christmas. I think we'll social distance and probably won't see each other much.
Yeah, that's a problem. And I know my honey hasn't seen her. She has 5 daughters, 4 of them live in Michigan. She hasn't seen them in a year. And I said, if we don't go up there this year, I'm going to get a motel on Christmas Eve until New Year's, because you won't be happy.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you graduated from Ball State, did you have in your mind, I want to get involved in motorsports? Because that's, as far as I know, that's all you've done your entire life.
For me, it was more, I want to be involved in sports. I was a broadcast major up there with Vince Welch. And, you know, Vince and I, we pretty much took all of our classes together. He's had a very successful broadcast career, and I never made it. So, but no, I knew that I always want to be involved in sports. You know, quite honestly, in the 80s, we didn't have sports marketing and sports administration and everything that they have now at the universities across the country. So, you know, I went down a road and used my contacts I met through my internships, met Ray Compton, who at that time was president of the Indianapolis ice hockey team. And, you know, I did hockey. I think I've talked to you about that. Now, I did hockey for 7 years. I've never been on skates in my life. Didn't know what offsides or icing was, but I jumped in with Ray and had a lot of fun, learned a lot from Ray. You know, that led to the opportunity to move down to Texas. And while I was in Texas, I met Eddie Gossage and the folks at the Texas Motor Speedway. And that's really when I got introduced, man, maybe that's something I want to do is motorsports. Hockey had gone far enough. And, you know, I through the right connections, I got in with the NHRA and got hired by Mike Lewis, who's now at Don Schumacher Racing, to work at IRP. And I've been really involved ever since. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed more I think the side that I'm on now, Don, the safety side and you know, the I won't say the philanthropy, that side. That's a tough word for me to say. Instead of trying to hustle corporate sponsorship all the time, like I did for years, this gives you it's a different level of money, a lot less, but it gives you a great sense of accomplishment when we do some of the things that we've done in the motorsports safety side.
Now, you started an organization, was here in Indianapolis dealing with safety some years back.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because people really, until there's a crash, nobody really says, oh my God, they should do this, that, or something else.
Yeah.
Now with the organization you're with, the International Council of Motorsports Sciences, whom do you approach with your safety concerns? Do you go to the drivers, associations, the series, or do you go to the promoter or track owner?
Well, I wish the Motorsports Safety Education Foundation, which was founded by Murph McKinney from McKinney Corp up in Lafayette, designer of top fuel and funny cars, Al Lowe at AD Motorsports, Mike Long, who's with up at DeWitt Radiator in Michigan. I wish the 4 of us would have known the ICMS back then when we tried to launch the MSEF, because we had the right intention. We were trying to educate racers on how to be safe and make sure they understood with their safety equipment why they needed to wear safety equipment. You think they would know that. It's common sense, but it's not. And for new families getting involved, they don't know. With the ICMS, who we really focus our efforts on working with our doctors, nurses, paramedics, firemen, EMTs, from all over the world that work in the motorsports industry as part of safety teams. So Bill and Tim, the guys at IndyCar safety team, they're members of our association. When they have a need for possible training, they're contacting us saying, hey, we need to have some additional training on, fire. Who should we be talking to? And we hook them up with the people from Ansel, which is a Johnson Controls product, and they do some training on that. It's the World of Outlaws. Tyler and Tom over there, the folks at the World of Outlaws reached out to us about a year ago and wanted us to do some training for them down in Volusia, at Volusia County. And so we did last February, very successful, had about 20 track safety workers who work World of Outlaws events throughout the country come to Volusia County and have 2 days of training and anything from, extrication out of the sprint car if they're unconscious or, so many different areas, fire. And the World of Outlaws said it was so well received that they came back to us about 2 weeks ago and said, we want to do it again on January 30th down in Volusia County. And then we want you to do it at our World Finals in November next year down in Charlotte. We think we could have 50, 60 people come do the training with you guys. So we're a resource for some, like the sanctioning bodies. Really, who we focus our efforts on is who we get our information from are the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, the folks at the universities that are doing research. You look at IUPUI, Michigan State, they're doing some phenomenal research through their kinesiology program. IUPUI is obviously utilizing their motorsports engineering program to work on safety. And again, we are trying to just continue to push the importance of continuing education of the best ways to provide safe treatment for injured drivers or people at the track, as well as how can we maybe avoid that next injury, right? I think that's the other big thing is when you look at the Formula One crash at Bahrain last weekend, that was one of the most amazing incidents I've seen. And yet that driver got out of his car, which was split in two on fire. He gets out of his car and walks towards the safety medical team. That was incredible. And then 2 days later, he's out of the hospital with the biggest smile on his face and a few bandages on his hands.
From burns, and that's the worst he had, apparently.
But second degree in his one hand he already had most of the bandages off. And it's just, to me, it's incredible that, thank goodness that the SFI and FIA and the sanctioning bodies they are pushing for more safety, right? If you look at what IndyCar continues to do and NHRA, NASCAR, the top levels, they're all working on how can we make our cars safer. And I think World of Outlaws saying, how can we train our safety fire medical people so they're better at what they do? To me, that's great. We need more sanctioning bodies and more racetracks taking that proactive approach.
Well, it seemed to me that from some of the injuries, and in particular when you're talking about in Bahrain, that the F1 has said we need to look at some of this. We never thought that this could happen. And, racetracks have had injuries that seemingly to me and to a lot of people could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm.
They had done different things with the fence and the catch fence and the walls and so forth.
Yes.
Do you go to racetracks and are invited to them to look it over and say, here's some changes you could make that would make it safer for the drivers? Because the cars are going so much faster now.
Yeah.
What used to be okay, it's not so okay anymore. Even as well built and safety conscious as the builders are, they still run into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have not, mainly due to COVID, I've stayed close to home. I'm a good candidate for that infection, and I don't want it. So I haven't left the house to go to a race this year. First time in probably 30 years I haven't gone to a race, but it wasn't in my best interest health-wise. And on that, we also have members that are directly involved in that area. So, for example, we have a a couple different companies. Geoberg, which is a European company, they actually are the leading designer of fences, catch fence, and just, I would say overall, a containment of a racetrack. They are probably the leading company in that whole spectrum globally. They are right now currently involved with numerous racetracks throughout Europe that host MotoGP, Formula One, and they're using their product. You know, the Nashville race next year, I think that's going to be fun, right? The Nashville race for IndyCar is going to be phenomenal through the streets of Nashville. But how do you create a safe track going through the streets of Nashville, right? And by the football stadium. Well, guess who they've brought in to help design the safety aspect of all the catch fence? Geoberg, one of our members. So Marty Hunt, who you know from his years at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and up at Joliet at Chicagoland Speedway, Marty's their their Americans sales rep. He covers North and Central and South America. So Marty got an opportunity to present to the folks at the IndyCar Series and Penske Entertainment what they could do for the Nashville event, and they were selected as the partner for that. And I think that will lead to more opportunities for them at other IndyCar events. But again, so we have companies like Geoberg. Tech Pro Barriers is another one. They were actually mentioned during the broadcast on Sunday from Bahrain. Tech Pro Barriers is a member of ours. Again, they're out of France. Currently, they're shut down because the France government's pretty much shut the whole country down again for 30 days. Not allowed to go into work, period. And that's a challenge for them for what they do. So Tech Pro Barriers is another one. It's a member of ours who racetrack designers and promoters from all over the world utilize their product to help, again, keep our drivers safe. I looked at that crash on Sunday and just cringed at the type of, barriers they were using, the old guardrail. To me, that shouldn't be on any racetrack anywhere anymore. That's so dangerous.
And I'm sure Rick Mears would agree with you because he went underneath the barrier in Canada and ruined his feet.
Yeah.
Is Tony Cotman consult with you when he sets up a track? Does he come and work with you or any of your people on suggestions on how we can do it and what would be the safest way?
Yeah, so what Tony will do is Tony won't contact us necessarily because he already has the contacts with Geoberg or Tech Pro Barrier. So my guess is Tony sits down with Marty Hunt and the design engineers of Geoberg to create that safety, let's call it almost not a safety net, safety cocoon, just whatever it takes to keep the drivers, the spectators, the crew members safe. So he would Tony would probably reach directly out to Marty because they've known each other for probably 30 years. And again, that's who you want. You want those relationships. But what's amazing to me is Geoberg is one of the leading safety companies for all of Europe, even for along the roadside. Like if you and I drive through the mountains of Tennessee, you'll see those fences along the rocks, keeping the falling rock from falling onto the interstate, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's something that Geoberg's created through all out Europe, always trying to find safety mechanisms to make it safer for on the general transportation avenues, the interstate systems, or at the racetrack.
It's amazing to me, for all the years I've known you, the different operations and different aspects of motorsports you've been involved in. As you said, you were with NHRA, with Indianapolis Motor Speedway, with IndyCar. You've been with Keystone Marketing. You've always been around in the, involved heavily in the sport, and you always took an interest, it seemed to me anyway, when we chatted a racetrack. You may have been there to, watch the race, or you may be there to work with a company on something, but you're always looking at things safety-wise and on the cars and what could be done. And it's always impressed me. So when it came out that you had been named executive director of the Council of Motorsport Sciences, I wasn't terribly surprised.
Well, it's as I've shared before, my first U.S. Nationals as an employee of the NHRA, we lost Blaine Johnson, we lost Elmer Trent, we lost two great race car drivers, drag race drivers in the same event. And I kind of came out of that thinking, holy cow, what the heck? You know, and you see really good guys, you know, Dan Weldon, Tony Renna, Paul Dana. Those are all three guys I met through, you know, my roles, whoever they were with, whether it was Keystone Marketing or IndyCar or the Speedway. You know, I don't want to lose those guys. You know, Brian Clausen, I don't want to lose another David Steele, Brian Clausen. So I think all of us that are involved in this industry should always have an eye open of what else could we do. You know, and I've been to a lot of racetracks where the fencing's horrible. You know, if a dirt late model gets up in the air, it's going to go right through that fence. It's going to hurt spectators. It could kill somebody. You know, so you try to give that promoter or the owner of that track a little nudge. Hey, have you thought about this? Or I was at Kokomo, you know, they did a really great job with this. Have you thought about that? And, you know, I just wish all of us would put safety first, and that just doesn't seem to work in this industry. There's still the idea we got to go fast and win at all costs, but I really wish we had safety. Always needs to be considered the most important priority.
You can't, I've never seen anybody win a race that was stuck in a fence.
You know, when we had the MSEF, we really, Don, we argued over it. Should we use it or not? But we went with the tagline, live to race another day.
Good idea.
And, you know, we want you, the racers, to live to race another day. And to do that, you have to put safety first.
And I think Dallara is, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the guys, you know, with the tech department or division of IndyCar, have really built a safe car. The cars are getting better. And of course, Dr. Bach, when he was here, that was his primary thing. He did a lot to upgrade the safety in the car. And I think now today it's even obviously much, much better.
Totally agree. I would say the same with Don, if I would, with NASCAR, you know, and during our annual conference that we have coming up, you know, we have John Padalak, who is, he has his PhD, but John is the director of the NASCAR R&D Center down in North Carolina. And what Don, you know, he's going to be sharing with us some of the testing and research that they did the last 2 years on their cars, and more importantly, the car that's coming up, the new car that's coming up. And if you look at Ryan Newman's crash at Daytona in February, for him to survive it, for one, and you know, with literally, other than a concussion, no other physical injuries, no broken bones. Are you kidding me? That was incredible. And again, why is that? Just like to me, the quality of car that Dallara builds for IndyCar or their other divisions they work with, I look at what NASCAR definitely has continued to work on making their cars safer. And what's neat about this, their new car they got coming up, I will tell you, there's a couple Indianapolis area-based companies that are heavily involved in some of the products to help make their new car safe.
Well, it's interesting, you know, that's coming to pass. Back when I first started and when I first started watching racing, safety was the last thing. I mean, you were there to drive a race car.
Yeah.
If you survive and win, good for you. You can do it again. If you don't survive, oh, well, there's the next guy. Step up. Let's go.
That's right.
And I remember watching midgets running in Soldier Field. And if you had a guy that was about 5'6", his head sticking up, if he got upside down, it'd tear his head off. And, and on occasion did, actually. So what they've done to make the car safer, and even after Dave Steele's accident, where he lost his life, which should never have happened. Of course, at that point, Bill Simpson went nuts because he said it's a simple fix. It would have saved his life. There's nothing to it. It's not expensive. And he ranted and raved, and I guess he got accomplished what he was after. So, you know, it's just, they say people go to races and like to see crashes. Well, okay, that's going to happen, especially in IndyCar. You got open wheel. That can happen very easily.
Close competition is going to do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you like to see, like happened in the Formula One race, the guy get out of the car. Yeah. And, you know, have a little burn or something and ready to go the next time. So that's what you guys are after. And I think, and who all is involved besides, you're the executive director, but who all do you have on the staff or the team of your corporation that looks into these things that you bring in that understands various safety aspects?
So our board of directors is pretty involved. Dr. Rob Seal, he's actually a cardiac cardiac anesthesiologist out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Dr. Seal, though, created the Canadian Motorsports Safety Team. He is the lead FIA medical liaison when Formula One races at Montreal. His team, the Canadian Motorsports Medical Team, is there providing support on the medical safety side for the F1 race. He also does the IndyCar race out in Edmonton for years and years. We've got some very still active folks from the motorsports industry on the medical side that are on our board. And then we have some that are, really pretty much retired. If you look at Terry Trammell, just got off our board last year, but Terry's actually a founding member. We all know Dr. Trammell here in Indianapolis, but he and Steve Olvey were founding members in 1988 of this organization. They saw it back then, 1988. They said there's a need for something like this. And our board of directors, though, I've got Matthew Mcpartlin, Dr. Mac, I call him. He's out of Australia, and he's the head of a trauma center at a hospital in Australia. He has a passion for motorsports. He literally serves as one of the top medical officers for motorsports for Australia. And when there are the big events down there, trust me, Matthew is usually the chief medical officer for those events. Younger doctor, probably about 40 years old, has a ton of energy, has a different perspective sometimes than maybe you and I would because he's down in Australia. He's seeing it differently. So we have that diversity, which is good. I also like that we have Tom Gideon on our board of directors. A lot of folks in the industry know Tom's name. Tom worked at General Motors for years and then finished up at NASCAR as literally their head, the director of their safety and research and development program. Tom was the one who really drove to make these cars safer at the different levels of NASCAR. Tom's still heavily involved with this. He's an engineer, but he's heavily involved with this. We just have a nice, I think, a variety of folks. My staff is pretty much myself, and then I have a great friend out of Miami, Daniela. Daniela, actually, Arana, she is actually just contract work for me. She helps me with the website and all the marketing. She's helped me a ton with the annual Congress event, really on the production of that. Then we have, a 9-person board of directors. I talk to most of them pretty often, actually, more often than I thought that I would. They always make themselves available. Now, they might say, hey, I'm in surgery for the next 8 hours. Call me at 8 o'clock tonight. Okay. But they always make themselves available. So I have that support, which is fantastic.
Speaking of Dr. Trammell, I don't know, a lot of people probably don't know this, or maybe they do. He is an orthopedic surgeon and treated most injured, in fact, drivers from Formula One would come here to see him. And he told me that early on when he'd see an injury, he would call his former professor and say, I've got an idea, can we do this? And they said, it's never been done, but no reason you can, and he did. So he came up with numerous injury solutions to put him back together that had never been done before. I mean, the guy is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and actually he's got Terry is pretty much retired from surgery. He's still very involved with the IndyCar safety team. He travels to all races and all events, and he's still heavily involved on that side. He's actually got really, I'd say almost like an understudy from IU Health. She's working on her, I think, final year of medical. But Dr. Julia Vaser, she says, I'm doing what I'm doing because of Terry Trammell, right? I mean, he's had that effect on young future doctors, which I think is going to be so helpful for our industry.
Oh, I think no question. And a guy that saw something and asked, could it be done? And he said, never has, but no reason not to. And he did it and it worked, and he's been on from there.
Yes.
It's an interesting subject because it's something that a lot of people don't really realize. They say, oh, they put a fishbowl on top of the car now. Really? But once the car goes by, at 230 miles an hour, you don't really see that particularly.
Right.
It's a safety thing for the driver. And I was told one of the initial tests was the driver, if he wasn't injured, had to be able to get himself out of the car in 5 seconds. Because you look at that and you say, how in the world are you going to get out of there? Well, the driver has to be able to get out on his own if he's not injured within 5 seconds. And of course, that they did that. I haven't seen how they would have to put the shoehorn in to get a driver out. I haven't seen how that worked, but I assume that it does work because they're using it, and it, they have it on the car, and it seems to be working quite well. And
I will tell you that the safety teams, the IndyCar safety team, they have done extensive training with their medical team, their safety team. So if they need to help a driver get out of a car, they have the right tools, and they have already been doing several, just hours upon hours of training, so they know exactly how to do that and do it effectively without doing any further injury to the driver. And that's actually even something that a lot of the sprint car series that you and I are familiar with, World of Outlaws just told us on a conference call yesterday what they want us to do in Volusia County in January 30th is actually they have some new, I can't remember, you and I would call them a backboard. I can't remember what they called them, but they just bought some new safety equipment. And the idea will be they're going to have our safety training team that are members of our association are going to go down there and train their safety workers on the proper way to get someone out of a sprint car if they have an injury, a spinal injury or whatever, because there's some new safety technology out there to hopefully make it even better.
Well, it's something that a regular fan doesn't think about. They're there to see the race and all the other things that you're dealing with and concerned about. They're there to watch the race. And
yes.
When they see a wreck, they go, ooh. And the neat thing that you want to accomplish is the driver can get out of the car and maybe limp away, but at least get out on his own and move about. So
get out as quickly and safely as they can.
Right. Well, I find it interesting, the different things that are being looked at from different angles, from different people, taking like the shoehorn, and I forget the name of the guy that developed that thing, and he just passed away. But it has been improved, I'm sure, to meet today's design of the race cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. I think the World of Outlaws is smart because they do have some oopses that are a little serious,
mm-hmm.
and any safety help that they can get and they're willing to look at and work with it, I think it's phenomenal.
Yes.
Do you have trouble? Are there series that don't feel that they need your help, that they've got it covered?
Well, I think the best way to answer that, we haven't built relationships with every sanctioning body that I would like to see us have a relationship with. Again, I've only been in this role since June 1. The organization's been around since 1988. And I think part of that, Don, is the people that have been involved from day one came from open wheel. And so you probably see a little bit more open wheel and NASCAR involvement. You really don't see anyone from NHRA, any track, any medical personnel. They have the safety safari, but yet the safety safari probably doesn't know who the ICMS is. I blame us as much as I blame the NHRA. I don't want to blame anybody really, but that's on my goal sheet for 2021 is to continue to build awareness of who we are, what we do, and why we do it, and get sanctioning bodies like the NHRA to get engaged with us. We want to help them. I think we can help them. I know they can help us, because most of our membership probably doesn't know anything about a top fuel car or a funny car or a pro mod.
And certainly they should. It come to mind when we talk about NHRA and safety, and I can't remember the racetrack, but Tony Schumacher, in top fuel car, had a wreck. He jumped the fence, and on the entire property there was one tree, and he hit it.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt him seriously, but can they have problems? And as you mentioned, a couple of guys died in one event. So
Yeah.
it can happen. It does happen, and they do have serious crashes, and they do from time to time go over the wall. Strangely.
Absolutely. You know, Scott Coletta, Connie's son Scott, was in the funny car, and you know, I believe that was Englishtown, New Jersey. You know, and at the top end of the track, there's the sand pit, and there's the catch fence, and then right after that, they had concrete barriers.
Yep.
Well, he skipped. You know, kind of as you do a lot of times, you skip through the sand trap. It didn't ever catch him. He skipped over the top of it. He hit the catch fence, still at such a high rate of speed, he went through it, and he crashed into the wall, and he got killed. And again, hopefully racetracks know you don't put concrete barriers at the end of the runoff.
If they didn't before, they do now.
They should now. But again, it's me. NHRA is one I'd like to do. I build a better relationship with. I've got the, you know, I know the right folks over there. We just have to, you know, convince them of we're a worthy group for them to be involved with. I look at the World of Outlaws. I look at IndyCar. We're heavily involved with both of them, and so I want to take them as kind of my poster child and say, hey, this is what we do with them and how we help each other. Can we get involved with you? And again, it falls on us. I don't think we were very proactive in building relationships outside of the little comfort area where we're at. And you know me, I'll go talk to anybody. I don't care.
Yeah. Something I think people need to be reminded of, and it's something now that's just taken for granted, is a safer barrier.
Yeah.
And what it has done, what it has meant, and the amount of time and money that Tony George put into developing that, along with Phil Casey and what's his name, Dr. Hurt in Nebraska.
Yes, sibling over the University of Nebraska in Lincoln.
Yes.
You know, again, that the Holman George family, they should receive major awards and kudos for what they brought to reality, and that's the safer barrier.
And they initially called it the soft wall.
The soft wall, and there's nothing soft about it, just the safer barrier. It absorbs. Yep. It absorbs more than anything else.
Well, we got a chance to go out when they put it at the speedway and go out and look at it. So like an idiot, I took a run and hit it. And I went, this is no safer barrier. I almost hurt myself.
It's not soft. You know that, right?
And you know who the first guy was to test the safer barrier at Speedway?
No, who was it?
Robbie McGee.
Okay.
He hit the wall and turned between 3 and 4.
St. Louis's finest, Robbie McGee.
Yeah.
You know, you look at tracks like New Hampshire. Just most of the tracks were the top levels of racing are. I don't know if we're ever going to see short tracks be able to afford to put the safer barrier in. You know, that's kind of a shame, but it is expensive. They still say it's expensive. I don't know. I never priced it. But I look at some of the great drivers, you know, John Nemechek, Tony Roper, Kenny Irwin, you know, they hit
Adam Petty,
even, you know, Dale Sr., but all these other guys who died, I'm sorry, there is no excuse for that. If the safer barrier was at those racetracks, every one of those race car drivers would still be with us today.
Most likely you're right, without question. And people thought when Tony started on this project, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Well, when he got done, they found out he wasn't kidding.
No, not at all.
And once he got going, NASCAR provided cars for him to run into the wall to help them develop that would handle anything. And that's
the difference. You know, that's such a heavier car than an Indy car. They needed to crash those. That was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I know next week is a busy week for you with meetings, and they're all, of course, virtual.
Yep.
As we are doing with Zoom. But I, for one, am very pleased, and I've been involved in IndyCar and motorsports for better than 60 years. And I think what you're doing is nothing short of a miracle to save. I mean, you got a favorite driver, and you want to see him live and see him retire as a driver. You don't want to see him being carted off.
No.
So what you're doing is phenomenal. I hope everybody will, you know, these sanctioning bodies that aren't involved with you and racetracks that aren't involved get involved. To save a life is utmost importance, because if a driver gets hurt, you don't see him again. Or if they get
no, you don't. And Don, I do want to mention another one that I think a lot of your viewers and folks that typically come to McGilvery's when we're there, USAC is another organization that's on my list like NHRA, only because I have good relationships there. You know, Levi Jones, Jason Smith, those guys are friends. Jason and I started out at IRP together. I mean, he and I go back 30 years, you know, getting into this stuff. You know, when I called Jason about a week ago about our annual Congress, because I had a speaker, a presenter drop out, and I needed someone else. And I'm like, well, you know what? Jason might know somebody. You know, and it was sad. He's been involved in this sport at the top levels, and he travels globally to do work for USAC. And he knew nothing about the ICMS.
Oh.
So I'm excited for that opportunity when we can to sit down and talk about the ICMS, who we are, what we do, why we do it. So he and Kevin and Levi and the folks there at USAC can say, well, wait, what? How can we get involved? Because again, you know, USAC is a leader, and they're changing their business model where it's not just about midgets and Silver Crown and sprint cars. They're the sanctioning body for events all over the world, like Robbie Gordon's Super Trucks. I mean, Jason's traveling to Australia and everywhere else. I want to be involved with them because they touch so many different racers. And again, how can we help push the scientific and medical side of safety out to the industry?
Well, let me tell you, if Tom's got his eye on you, look out, because he'll be there. And more likely than not, he knows you. So, by the way, I got to ask you, you lost a daughter and have a foundation. How is the foundation doing?
You know what? It's an interesting year, DK. We always have our annual fundraiser. We only do one a year. I don't like bothering people. We do one a year in July. It's a 2-day event. We typically, you know, generate about $20,000 net that we can then distribute to needing families till the next event. And, you know, this year with COVID, we couldn't have it. So we decided we would try, like everybody else, virtual. And we just, you know, we kept it simple and did a weekend of giving. In the weekend of Megan's event, we just went ahead and created the Megan Weisenbach Foundation Weekend of Giving. And we set a goal of $12,000. And I'm not going to lie, first when we did it, I work with the company that helps me on the website. I said, you know what, just set the goal at 10,000. If we get there, the board of directors and I will be very happy. Early on, we started having some success. I'm like, no, you know what, change the goal. I want $12,000. And we ended up with about $14,000 donated over the weekend. And so mission accomplished. That allows us to keep helping families who have kids with special needs, who have a need for something, for help with quality of life. Last year, we helped 27 families in 2019. We're on pace right now, especially this pandemic. So many families need just a little extra thing. I think we're on pace right now to help 30. If I left camera, I got a pile right here. I got to go through these support applications. I think we're going to be around 35 to 40 families we're going to be able to help this year. We didn't raise as much money, so I've had to say, hey, I can't give you $1,300. What if I gave you $800? Can you come up with a balance? Sure, we'll make it work, right? The families will make it work, but we're helping as many as we can. And we're looking forward to our event next July. We hope we can get back together, have our golf outing, have our party, raise some money, and keep helping families. So I appreciate you bringing it up. It's the Megan Weisenbach Foundation. We truly have been helping families all over the country that have children with special needs who need help that provides some type of quality of life for their child. It's not about medical, insurance. I don't care about insurance. Insurance is the most frustrating thing when it comes to families that have a child with special needs. So if you have a child that has special needs and you really would like them to, say, have an iPad to help them with communication, but you can't afford an iPad or the $300 app that Apple has, fill out the family support application, submit it to us. We buy the iPad. I go get the Apple gift card from Kroger. I still support Kroger. And we literally give that to them. We send it to the family. And so just so many different things, accessories for wheelchairs that insurance wouldn't cover, whatever it may be.
You know, it's amazing. You mention those things and people don't think about that.
No, and where it all came together for us, we lived it. We experienced it. You know, we're the ones that constantly got told by insurance, no, that's not covered, or no, you can't have that. And yet we wanted Megan to have it because it would help her have a better quality of life. So what we did back then, we had credit card. We paid for everything with a credit card, right? And you know, when she passed, we had about $100,000 worth of debt on credit cards because we were doing whatever we felt was best for our daughter. We don't want families that are in the same position we were to have that type of debt. So that's why we try to help the best we can.
Well, my hat is off to you. I did get to meet your daughter.
Yep.
And saw her, and it was a terrible loss, but then you're taking a negative and making it into a positive, and that's what needs to happen. That's how this country gets moving forward.
Man, we sure need more of that right now, Don.
You betcha. Well, thanks for your time, Tom. I will touch base with you again to see how you're progressing. I know after you get done talking with all these people and get them to take a little break, and I'll call you and we'll talk again, see how you're progressing and how safety is coming to the minds of the people that need to have it on their mind.
Well, and again, we look forward to having PRI back in town next year. You know, next week would be the week of PRI.
Yep.
We're sure missing having the whole industry come to see us here in Indy.
Right.
Our city misses them. We miss them. And so we look forward to having all of us back together next year. We'll have our annual Congress during the PRI event next year. And hopefully you can jump in a couple of sessions and just sit in and just listen. I think you'll enjoy it.
I will be there. Thanks for your time. Good luck in moving on and growing the organization, which I know you will do. And from all the Autosport people, have a good holiday. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and talk to you again soon.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Donnie.
My guest has been Tom Weisenbach, the Executive Director of the International Council of Motorsports Sciences. He's been around and he's doing a great job, and will make it safer for drivers and fans for that matter. So we look forward to what he can accomplish. We have some other guests lined up in the next few days or next week or so. We shut down usually before Christmas and come back after the first of the year. And we've already talked about people coming in next year. So stick with us. We'll send you a notification. It'll be on my Facebook page and on the Autosport Radio Facebook page when we have guests. And I'll send out emails to those that I have on my list. Until the next time, Don K saying thanks for watching. Until the next time, we'll see you then. Bye.